Good morning, everyone. Omar Richens here. Hope everyone's having a blessed morning. Today, we'll be reading introductions from Ready for a Revolution by Stokely Carmichael, Kwame Ture. Thank you, Adam, my boss, for giving me this book, lending it to me. I think it's quite interesting just because Stokely Carmichael, he came from Trinidad before he came to the US, and yet we know or we don't get taught a lot about Stokely Carmichael when we are growing up. So there is that introduction. So today I'll be just reading the introduction. Hopefully I can get through it relatively quickly. Introduction. In meditation on a life. They say that freedom is a constant sorrow. SNCC Freedom Song. And everyone, this is my friend Diesel, who will be keeping me company. Hopefully doesn't harass me too much while I read. To be alive, to arrive here and leave here. Why? What's it mean? Maybe it's about freedom, that place, that land we will never reach, only visit but dream of, always. Where we would be at our best, a land that would treat us as if we are its children, and it's our mother. Motherland birthing us into a valley of tears, then caring for us, motherland humming and whispering into our ear, while she rocks us on her bosom. Everything is possible. You are possible, my daughter, my son. The best inside you is inside something you can achieve because you are loved and all things are possible. The song we hear when we hear freedom, our bodies, our minds, cradled by the memory, the promise of what we might become. Yes, and surely will become, if given half of a chance. Freedom so much larger than we are, enlarging us. Glimpse of a new day, a great getting up morning when everything in creation finds its voice and we dance to the music. Music alive in our hands and feet and minds. Music teaching us to overcome enemies within and outside ourselves. Not a morning when war's over and won, but the peace of freedom declaring itself, declaring that after all is said and done, the race wars, religious wars, wars over things and who owns what, the deepest goal, surest reward for the self and the peoples equally, is to sing and dance in community. Each of us, his or her way, a step at a time for a sweet time, celebrating, resting, gathering, a new strength for the new struggle that might be a better struggle than these conflicts that destroy so many lost and gone, to bring us dancing through a victory gate. So freedom embraces life. It loves dancing together to Bob Marley songs, joyous songs or anthems of our troubles when we were wrong and wishing for better. Freedom is what Stokely Carmichael was talking about. Chill. My apologies for Diesel, everyone getting a little crazy, of course, eh? Talking about, hollering about, demanding. The goal for which he stalked his life daily in Mississippi in the 60s, what he sought in newly colonized Africa, what he preached returning to the States, persona non grata, spokesperson for impossible dreams of the dispossessed, or rather seemingly impossible because like the motherland, a place we've never been and probably won't get to, dreams are no less valuable, no less real for that reason, driving us to push for the unattainable, the best of ourselves. We may choose if we dare, if we commit ourselves to struggling for freedom. A vexed and vexing idea, freedom. If you really think about it, who's free? Who's not? Who says so? For sure, no one could give you freedom. Mr. Lincoln, with an Emancipation Proclamation, changed the legal status of some slaves in America in 1863. But he didn't give freedom to one person unless in his heart Lincoln had seen the light and truly freed himself from the error, the terror, the self-destruction burden of believing one human being could or should own another. And no one's been given freedom by America's bloody wars, from the Revolution and the Civil War to the present crusades in Afghanistan or Iraq. If you confer upon someone else the power to free you, you are also granting them the power to enslave. How can freedom reside in a piece of paper or in someone else's decision to define you as a property or not? To feed and clothe you, provide shelter, allow you to live or die, and even if someone could give the gift of freedom, wouldn't such an enormous, overwhelmingly gift establish permanent inequality, a permanent sense of dependency, indebtedness, unfulfillable obligation? The freedom that matters most is how we feel inside in how we feel inside about ourselves. Prisons, ghettos, concentration camps, barrios, favelas, colonies can restrict mind and body, kill both, but until the spirit is extinguished, the possibility of freedom lives. Freedom is about choice, the self-grounded, self-motivated decision to imagine, create a range of choices, and the resolve to choose among them. This internal work orients us to our surroundings, not magically, but with a force literally transcendent. Since it's non-material, beyond any external measure of verification, even in the most extreme circumstances, freedom exists. The African who jumped from a slave ship into the rolling Atlantic Ocean, the philosopher who defies torture, asking for more weight rather than abjure his upstanding of truth. Freedom is an attitude, a principle that operates perhaps most visibly in spite of resistance. Without resistance, without the resistance of physical or metaphysical shackles, without the tyranny of passion, without the necessity of unwavering discipline to negotiate difficult tasks, without the body's decay, the mind's fallibility, how would any of us discover our capacities, our freedom, in spite of those obstacles, in spite of slavery, colonialism, the social pressures to conform? Not that freedom springs only from adversity. Consider the choice to love, for instance. But how would we understand the value of an internal landscape where each of us strives to be the final arbiter, arranger of meaning, the giver of meaning to life? And if we did not confront the forces always clamoring to seize the inner territory from our grasp, to be known and performed, the dance of freedom, as pleasure needs pain and light needs dark, depends on creative tension, reciprocity, dialect. Performed because freedom's impermanent, mutable, embodied, and framed in rhythmic counterpoint with its opposite. Performed because each dancer must be responsive to shifting circumstances, must be prepared to be spontaneously improvise, chimerical as dreams, and bearing like dreams immense weight, responsibility, and emotional necessity. How are you going to keep them down on the farm after they see Paris? Freedom's a bit like that. A fabled city, unforgettable once glimpsed, a myth, a destined no less real place because it's unreachable. To experience freedom, even citizens of Paris must dream a Paris. An elusive concept, perhaps almost more apparent in the absence than present. Who's better to keep alive the idea of freedom than a prisoner? However, a clear danger follows from an either or notion of freedom. The unfreedom of some defines the freedom of others. Certain social orders, capitalism for every, are based on division, depend on the permanent underclass of have-nots. The prisoner's perspective on freedom emphasizes opposition, losses, sight of process, and the necessity of continuing negotiation. Workers are not slaves, but the logic and dynamics of the plantation condition the lives and choices of laboring underclass. Rigid categories of free and not free lead backward to short-sighted dependence on a great emancipator, put freedom in someone else's hands. Art is a particular case of freedom as action. When asked what it means to be a writer, novelist Chester Himes replied, "A fighter fights, a writer writes." I amend his clarity, his emphasis on process, on doing. No matter how many books I publish, the day I stop writing, I'll no longer be a writer. Other people might call me a writer, but that won't transform my inactivity into writing. Stokely Carmichael understood this principle. In these pages, he tells us what he learned early in Mississippi jails. We are not what we think or say. We are not what we hope, not what we pretend we are. We are simply what we do. In America, the idea of being free has been rigidified, materialized, turned into a one-time, one-stop shopping affair. We're born free, aren't we? By virtue of being Americans. Freedom's protected, isn't it? By the checks and balances of our political system. As one state's license plates declare, we Americans are determined to live free or die. Strangely, ominously, even the frontal assault on our civil rights after 9/11 hasn't disturbed our confidence, or should I say sleep. Leaving aside for the moment the question of whether we still possess them or not, leaving aside also the possibility our leaders have duped us into believing fear and conformity rather than internal vigilance protect our civil liberties, ask instead a simpler question: how are we practicing freedom? Are we writing it? Unfortunately, the exercise of freedom has become synonymous with the power to buy, the privilege to display and consume what we purchase. The materialized version of the rewards of freedom and democracy and supplanted the idealized American dream, one so attractive to the rest of the world because of the thingness of our culture, because money first and last determines value, because everything's for sale. From the presidency to prisons, economic power is only power, the sole incentive. Getting paid is the bottom line. And what's wrong with that? We all like nice things, don't we? And nice things cost money. But what's the cost of a paycheck? Aren't there other more crucial forms of compensation? If we don't exercise our freedoms to create and demand a wide range of life-enhancing returns for our labor, we're captives of a system with no center, moral, ethical, aesthetic, except production of wealth. Wow, that was deep, though. Wow. In Black Skin, White Mask, Frantz Fanon, great book by the way, you should definitely read it. In Black Skin, White Mask, Frantz Fanon explained that for marginalized Black people, the first step away from oppression must be to obtain basic necessities: food, shelter, work, health, security, but without the next step, an emergent critique of self and society. The old order of exploitation that breeds the wretched of the earth will remain in force. Even if a larger number of Americans can liberate themselves uh, from handicaps imposed by racial, gender, and class inequities, these inequities wouldn't disappear, neither inside the minds of the individuals who pull themselves up from their bootstraps, nor in the material circumstances of other Americans who don't make it up the economic ladder, nor in the global economy where marginalized people will be recruited to fill the underclass necessary to maintain luxury for the few, here and abroad. In the absence of the new vision, Fanon calls for oppression, simply migrates or creates a class of perpetual migrants, stateless, without rights, doing every nation's dirty work. In this situation, the psychological and moral landscape of each of us, haves or have-nots, deteriorates. Greed, fear, heat, cynicism, desperation proliferate. Enter Stokely Carmichael, Kwame Ture. Carmichael's call for Black Power was a dream, an enabling positive call for change, as much a dream as the one enunciated by Martin Luther King in Washington, D.C. in 1963. A dream because a blueprint or black print in progress for a revolutionary, never seen before way of being in the world. Kwame beseeches us, compels us to put our best foot forward, step out, step away from a stalled yet hopelessly self-congratulatory society, a powerful, complacent society full of contradictions and lies that allow great evil to be perpetrated in its name, in the name of promoting worldwide democracy and freedom, when neither democracy nor freedom rule at home. Bam! Kwame Tore's dreaming was visionary, a counter-vision, counter-reality to the reigning myths. He shouted, "The emperor is naked," pointing at the emperor with a finger attached to a black hand. Step forward, step to it with a black foot. Black not because of the color, but because Stokely Carmichael was an African descendant man. And yes, it's his voice, his fingers pointing, his foot, so they're black and thus negative in the eyes of a lot of folks. Then here comes Stokely challenging the obscene spectacle of our empire. And call his anger, his critique, his truth, black if you want to. In fact, he's calling it black, but with a difference. Black equals pride, fierce militancy, a determination to pursue the dream of freedom on its terms, black terms, if you please, but really a new dream replacing an old one. So try to wrap your mind and heart around that too. Recognize the legitimacy of his vision, not its color. Acknowledge its applicability, the seeds of clarity, its promise to seek change, to move all willing Americans to a more equitable, fulfilling social order. More freedom for so-called whites and so-called blacks that Stokely found when he arrived here. From Trinidad, Black Power was more than a dream, of course. It was a call to action, a call for organizations for consciousness raising. Its concreteness was expressed by dangerous grassroots campaigns for voting rights in the South, countless meetings, memos, study groups, alliances erected and dismantled. Its growth and change, the business of raising and spending money, jail time, street time, hospital time, friendships formed and shattered, press releases and world tours, its birthing of SNCC, the bodies and minds sacrificed, sanctified, the songs, poems, narratives, and fashions it generated, its failures and successes that radically transformed the lives of so many. All that and much more is a story of is the story Michael Thelwell tells. A freedom story grounded in Kwame Ture's recorded words. A story timely beyond words. More than timely, absolutely urgent. How many lives like Ture's are available for young people to study and know about? Why have they not taught us about these lives, man? Why, Diesel? Why? His career wasn't engineered to catapult him to Hollywood or the NBA, nor Wall Street, nor convert him to a beige great white hope. His career was service, preparing himself through study and activism to participate in humankind's progressive emancipation, learning to look for trouble, to agitate for change and mandate solutions. For his success meant a life situated in conflict, in sync with people's aspirations to do better, free themselves from an outmoded social and political order. He aligned and identified himself with Africa, a continent, an idea, a people bearing a horrific heritage of exploitation. His work revealed to oppress people everywhere the power within their supposed weakness, expose the weakness of unjust power. Ture demanded payments of his labor far beyond the reduction notion of monetary wages and demonstrated till the end of his life a willingness to pay back, to squeeze down to the last precious drop the gift of life given to him, sharing that vital energy, distilling it so it became supportive of other human beings. The struggle never ends. Across the globe, young people are standing up, shouting, demanding more from their societies, more from their lives. Reading Michael Thelwell's scrupulous, engaged, and respectful rendering of Stokely Carmichael's life remind protesters and marchers and street fighters, guerrillas in the hills, voters at the ballot box, reformers in the tenements or legislators, revolutionaries young and old, they are not alone, never have been, never will be. John Edgar Wideman, spring 2003 in New York. Well, wow, I'm really excited to continue reading this book. Let me know if you want me to continue reading it on this channel, or if you just want me to give you excerpts of things that I do find interesting when I do come across them. But thank you so much for tuning in today. If you have any recommendations of what you want me to read next, tomorrow, for any other time, just let me know. Reach out to me on Instagram at Omari Richens or somewhere else. But I appreciate you tuning in and look forward to sharing more readings, poems, whatever the case is tomorrow. Have a blessed day, everyone. Peace.